I bring to you today Milap's first audio podcast, and my guest today is a young man who's had a fascinating journey in life with his body, mind, spirit, and spirituality. Today I'm speaking to Ravish Malhotra, and he'll be talking about his own quest for peace. I would say he's a spiritual being having a human experience. Ravish, welcome to Milap's Coffee Conversations.
Thank you, Ghazal, for such a lovely introduction. And I feel blessed and grateful that you gave me this opportunity to be here. We all are spiritual beings having a human experience till the time we realize it. So, thanks for that introduction.
Absolutely. Happy to be speaking to you today. And these topics that you have chosen for us are very close to my heart. These have been lessons that have guided me in my personal journey. So, thank you once again for being here. And by the way, I have lots of questions from our members.
Sure. Sure. I'm looking forward to answering them all. Yeah.
Before we begin, I would like to introduce you to the audience. You are a yoga practitioner and a meditator. You have a keen eye for experiencing spiritual wisdom. You're also a qualified architect and run a leading design firm in New Delhi. A deep spiritual experience in 2014 put you on the path of self discovery, making you look at everything around you from an existential point of view. Ravish, I'm very curious about what happened in 2014 that made you put being an architect in the second place and meditator and practitioner in the first. Please tell us a little bit about this journey.
Very well put and very well noticed. In 2014, Ghazal, I was at a point in life where I seem to have hit a roadblock in every sphere of my life. So, right from health to business to family, relationships, support system, everything seemed to be just not working out the way it should be or the way I had imagined it. So, starting with health, if I have to share briefly, then I had minor cough issue, which I remember made me go to 10 doctors, who in turn made me have 300 plus antibiotics in over 3 months. Now, when even after having those medicines, nothing worked out, I realized something profound, which was that if you let someone else decide what goes down your throat and it doesn't work out, then you can't complain and you have to quietly bear the consequences.
Hmm.
This helpless situation I was in made me question all my intake. Once I looked at what was being cooked and served at home, I started noticing and correcting it. This diet cleanup drive, I remember clubbed with my morning ritual, which I started calling me time, which stands for meditation and exercise. This ritual helped me lose 18 kgs in about 9 months.
Wow.
My my body optimized itself once I eliminated all the wrong food intake which was happening accidentally, I must say, just by setting the right eating patterns.
Hmm.
So once the health was sorted, I knew how important it was to have a daily ritual and live in awareness. So the 10-minute meditation every morning helped me clear out my mind and made me ready to take on the world. To get perspective, you have to step back, and meditation helped me do that. So, stepping back from my daily life, me that perspective.
So,
Innate
Ravi,
urge,
uh,
yeah.
tell us, very few of us are born into families where there is a legacy of uh, spirituality, learning, and an atmosphere where we get to learn these things from our elders. So, for you, where was this journey, or where was this learning coming from? Was it from the family, or was it from somewhere else?
My family is just like any other family. We, most of us live in family setups, and family basically comprises of individuals, and family setup is always socially conditioned. So, it is not necessary that what you are seeking you may get in that environment. But as I told you, that this morning ritual really helped me understand uh, or at least gave me an idea as to that there was a deeper sense to everything in life. And what I understood as life was completely different to what exactly life was. and meditation really helped me clear out my mind. So that basically made me curious, and there was this innate urge, which started developing in me to dig
Hmm.
deeper into the workings of life. So I would say that this urge clubbed with my morning meditation put me on the spiritual path. Once I was there, I just got hooked onto life. Wherein, I must tell you that I started noticing every element in nature. When I say every element, I started with water. So I started noticing water, its behavior, and I started doing some research, and I figured out that water has immense memory and it is as alive as I was. And then I started looking at plants, trees. I started turning inward, so to say. So, and at the same time, I still remember in the mornings I used to go on these walks. I used
Hmm.
to, during my office hours, step out of office for an hour, go take a walk in the park. And all this while, I used to be absolutely quiet. And I just started observing these trees standing there, you know, flowers, birds. I started noticing all these things. And somewhere I would say that within 5 minutes of my entering the park, I used to started tuning in with my frequency used to start tuning in with the plant frequency, I must say. So I could
Hmm.
actually feel the stillness of a plant. And at the same time, uh, I uh, it used to be so peaceful, I must tell you. The stillness brought in so much peace. And I started enjoying this without even realizing that, I was getting into a ritual or I was getting into deeper dimensions of spirituality or I was trying to uh, understand life or whatever you may call. But it was happening on its own. I mean, once you start connecting with life around you, I think then you get absorbed in it automatically. There is no roadmap to it. You just have to be aware.
So you're saying that your sense of awareness was heightened and you became more observant about things around you, especially nature. And it wasn't really a school of thought or a spiritual guru, but things around you gave you the lessons that you should be in the now, or you should be more present in where you are.
So I was not, I would say, very conscious about what I was doing because it was all
Hmm.
new to me. And yes, so whatever was available around me, I started noticing. Like I started noticing the sun. I
Hmm.
once I started, once I understood the role of diet and how alive the food is which we eat, and how we are killing it by, overcooking it, and how it is becoming useless for our body. So all these things actually made me aware that everything in life and everything we are doing and everything that is keeping us alive as human beings uh, is very, very mysterious, and it is happening all around, and we are living in ignorance, just uh, you know running around with uh, running after materialistic things, trying to make money and stuff like that, and just ignoring the basic functioning of life, what life exactly is. So I think these elements really brought in that sort of an awareness. And the basic reason was, which I can tell you now, was that what I was doing was dropping all my thoughts during that time. So once your thought goes away, then automatically you can let the life within you flow. And then that is when you create a connect with life around you. And that is what brings in a lot of peace.
Well, I know how tough that is, because it's there are times when, despite sitting intentionally for meditation, it's very difficult for me to drop the thought. So although when you say it, you make it so effortless in bringing it, making it a reality. But I know for a fact how difficult that would have been for your family to make changes in the food and the diet. Especially, you said you come from a Punjabi family. How easy
Yes.
was it, or how tough was it to convince people at home to change the way they were looking at food or cooking food?
So I did not ask them to change anything. All the changes were happening on my end. So And I must say that, we all live in so much in ignorance that I think these 9 months just passed by without people realizing as to exactly what was happening. So I think after 6 months, they started noticing some changes. But for the first 6 months, nobody exactly knew what was happening. They thought that maybe it is some sort of a fad that he has picked up and he's experimenting or doing something.
Mm.
But what was going inside was much deeper than that. And it was a certain kind of a realization with food, which I was having, and my body basically wholeheartedly accepting it, what was going in and whatever I was rejecting. So uh, they can't sink in till now that this has happened and I've lost so much weight and I no longer look like a Punjabi. But having said that, I don't have any complaints to that.
Right. Let's talk a little bit more about those deeper changes that you mentioned. And I was reading one of your lines when you wrote to me saying that you gravitated into spirituality when you found that people struggle even with the basic aspects of handling their own thoughts, emotions, and body. You basically believe that life is simple and the complications we face are just created by the limitations of our thought process. Well, a lot of people will not agree and they will say that the complications are created by somebody else in their life, right? Whether it's a wife, it's a boss, or a mother-in-law, father-in-law, or the government. How would you explain this statement to us?
Yeah, that's true because most of the people, if you realize, they're living in their brains, in their head. So a lot of attention has been given to thought, fortunately or unfortunately. Our education system is entirely focused upon thought, and but very little attention has been paid to how to handle these thoughts and emotions. So I don't think so. I have ever gone through any class where they talk about, how the thoughts are generated in my brain and what sort of a power they carry. And if you are unable to handle them, then what all damage it can do to your system and your life. A lot of people associate themselves a lot with their thought processes, thoughts, and thinking patterns, intellect. We judge people with their ability to solve problems, with the level of intelligence they carry and IQ. Uh, the unfortunate thing about thoughts is that it immediately tells your mind that uh, that this is your thought. So that is the first identification that it has originated in your mind. So you start identifying with your thoughts immediately. So a lot of the times we don't even realize that these are borrowed thoughts or these are the thoughts because of our different situations we have been during the day. We have just
Mm.
picked these thoughts from outside. A lot of the people, if you sit down, and I did this exercise quite during those times, I used to do these exercises quite often. Now, since I'm much deeper into meditation, so I don't struggle with these things. But initially, I still remember I used to do these things and I used to write down all my thoughts and then give a lot of attention as to what all is mine and what all is borrowed, which is coming from outside. So
Mm.
that really brings in a lot of clarity and takes off the mental baggage. And then you can take ownership of your own thoughts once you realize that uh, this is what you actually wanted to think about. And it has not been a recurring thought or an accidental thought just originating in your mind. So, a very small example I'll give you, like whenever there is a new catchy tune which comes, so your mind basically, you without realizing accidentally, you just pick on this tune, and I don't know if you have noticed, a
Mm.
lot of people must have, that that tune suddenly, when you're going to bed in the night, that tune, starts playing in your head, and you go to bed with that tune. Tomorrow morning, you are getting up next morning, and then again the tune plays back. And
Mm.
so basically, what is happening is your mind is just randomly picking on stuff. So from outside, you never intended to pick on that tune and let that tune play on its own. It is happening accidentally. And similar thing is happening with a lot of things which happen around us. which we accidentally pick on. That is what I mean to tell you.
Hmm.
And then we start identifying with those thoughts without realizing that, we are the ones who are actually letting it happen. So first is to identify that and then disconnect with those things which are not yours. This is one thing. And
So I like this concept which you said, that when you pay attention to your thoughts, you realize which are yours and which are borrowed.
yes,
And a lot of times in life, when we talk about finding peace, it sounds like a monk-like state to be in, right? There is so much action happening around us, events, so many challenges, and then we talk about staying in peace always. So is always at peace a realistic state of being?
yeah, I knew this would come. So see, peace is here right now, and it always was a part of you.
Hmm.
It's just that while growing up, it became a distant reality, especially in today's world. So you think the monk is happy?
You'll have to ask him.
What do you know? That poor guy is sitting on a mountain all alone. He's not longing for the comfort of his home. He may be. So for a good visual perspective, it's very important to step back. Then only you can have a perspective. So you need to create some distance. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So when you are out there on the road, you want to have a perspective of a visual, to step back. And then step back even more to get even more perspective on things. Like, okay, I'll put it like this. So basically, when you look at Google Maps, so you go up, okay? By going up, what are you doing? You are creating a distance between you and between the observer and the land.
Right.
Once you get perspective, you know exactly how many houses are there. When you were standing on the road, you could see only say about 10 houses. But when you go up, you see 100. You further go up, maybe you see 1,000. So this is what is happening. You are creating a distance and your perspective is increasing. Similarly, for peace, all you need is a little bit of distance. A distance from the madness which is created in your head,
Hmm.
the madness of thoughts. Now let us look at a child or a young kid. So a child growing up, when you're a small child, you are buzzing with energy all the time. All you need is freedom to play and do all sorts of random things. So much so that you even forget to eat. We all know food is a prerequisite to generate energy. We eat food so that we can gain energy. And look at what kids do. They don't even eat. So many mothers we see running around. Even my mother used to run around me. We were, so full of energy. So one reason is they don't stick to the crap which is thrown at them.
Hmm.
The mind is empty and free for energy to flow. So as you grow up, you start holding on to everything because you start identifying with everything and you want everything to be there. Where? In your head. And it first starts with where you come from, your religion. Just imagine while you were growing up. If you are a child, you are buzzing with energy. Now you have entered a school. And then these questions start coming to your mind. This happened with me also when I was growing up. There came a phase where I actually started looking at everybody's religion. Okay, I am a Hindu. This guy is a Sikh. Oh, he's different, you know. I am a Hindu, I should behave in a certain way. He's a Sikh, he's a Muslim. So I started comparing, and I'm sure every child does that at some point. Then there is another kind of mindset which children pick up. So you start noticing who's rich, who's poor,
Hmm.
who comes in a car, who comes on a scooter, who comes on a bus, who comes walking. So what are you doing basically? You are trying to place yourself in this scenario which is around you. Correct? That is what you are doing in the head while growing up. Now, if you have placed yourself somewhere in the social setup while growing up, nobody is teaching you this, let me tell you. This is all your brain's work. And once you have placed yourself, then you have created a fixed identity for yourself. And most of your decisions will be based on this identity. You know what I mean? So anything not in line with this identification is going to create a conflict in your brain. And your mind will do everything to protect this identity.
So
which you
talking
created for yourself. Yes.
about conflicts, I have a question here from one of the members.
Mm-hmm.
She says that I know these strategies to be at peace. I know the answer to my mind's battle, but why am I not able to apply it? And the most important one of them is the ability to differentiate between being reactive and being responsive. And that continuously, when she tries to apply her ability to respond to a situation than react, she sees that she keeps failing. So why is the awareness, when there is awareness, yet you're not able to really apply this mindfulness between a reactive and a responsive situation?
Okay. So let me start. This question has two aspects to it. One is that you're not able to apply whatever you have learned. And second part is you spoke about reactive or responsive situations. So situations, I don't think so they are reactive or responsive. Situations will come to life. They can be challenging situations. There can be easy situations. Okay. So it is our response to those situations or our ability to respond in a certain way to that situation with a solution, or we can just be reactive with no solution and no outcome, or even sometimes we may end up making the situation even worse. Right? Now, when you say how do we differentiate between reaction and response, I don't think so. It is very difficult to differentiate between the two. I think that aspect everybody knows. It is inbuilt. See, if you touch a horse from behind, you'll know what the reaction is going to be, right? So if you're operating out of your instincts or the so-called reptilian brain, you can expect the reaction. It is just that where are you operating from, which will decide whether you will react or you will respond. So if you operate out of your intelligence, you will respond. And we all have this choice. It is just a matter of practice and realizing it.
So I like that line when you said we all have a choice and it's a matter of where I'm operating from. But when you are in the middle of your mind's battle, I think there could be, if you could tell us a simple practice that we could do to let go of the continuous conflict that happens not outside but internally. Do you think there's a practice that you can teach us today which could help us in that situation?
Yeah, I can share something definitely which may help you calm down in a situation. See, if you're unable to handle a situation, you're not yet there. And you know this. Most of us know it. Even knowing this is a level of spiritual growth, I would say, that your awareness is growing, that you have started identifying these things in you. So a completely reactive mind won't even know about it. So if you are in a situation you're unable to handle, so just step back a little bit, take time, figure out a way to get off that situation for that time because you can't handle it at that time. Sit down somewhere, close your eyes, you can sit down, you can just observe your breath. Just notice your breath for 5-10 seconds. I'm sure body will take time to calm down. Once the body is in a reasonable comfort level, then take a deep breath. And as you take the deep breath, take as much inhalation as possible. You inflate your stomach. And at the same time, you create a lot of tension in the body. You make a fist, create tension. And keep those negative thoughts or your inability to handle that situation or whatever is coming to your mind. Just keep that in your mind, keep that in your awareness. At the same time, create tension. And in one go, you have to exhale fully from your mouth, throwing out the entire thought process which is going on in your head at that moment. You try doing this, and after this, for about 2 minutes, just sit down quietly. Keep your focus on your breath. Take deep inhalation. Let your breath settle down. Let it bring a balance in the system. And tell your mind that this situation happened and it is okay. And it is over. You have to bring acceptance. That is the whole idea. Once you fully accept this situation and you have calmed down your body and your mind is clear, now you go about doing whatever you were doing or whatever next step or task. Just take away your attention from that situation for some time. Then attend to that situation, maybe after a couple of hours or maybe the next day. You will see the amount of difference it brings. You will see magically solutions coming to your mind to come out of that situation.
I just tried this right now, and it feels really good with something that was bothering me in my head. So I like the fact that you said that you have to come back to the situation with a fresh mind, with more awareness, and know that you have the ability to make a right choice, which is to respond rather than your reptilian brain, which is to react, right? So Ravish, what we are going to do is we are going to come back and speak to you a little bit more. Thank you so much for sharing your journey, your amazing life transforming experience from 2014, and this beautiful practice that you have left us with. So we'll be back to talk to you a little bit more with a lot more questions that have been put up by our members. So for now, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ghazal. The pleasure has been mine, and I hope that this conversation helps members to deal with these stress triggers in their lives, and they are at peace.
Thank you so much.